you're now Christoph Rudhoft. Actually, I should be Christoph Rudhoft. We have the same personality, right? Um, you're the other. You're the friendly one. What's your season plan for Vanderpool in an Olympic year? Bearing in mind, Canyon pay you guys a lot of money, not just for him to ride a road bike.
I agree. That is the case. I think classics are obvious. So building up
Yeah.
towards the classics that's a clear one.
MSR again?
MSR again, I have no issue with that.
Yep.
When it comes to the Tour de France, I wouldn't let him do the entire Tour de France. I'd let him do 10 days to be exact.
So no Giro? No
Sorry,
Giro.
but I don't know.
Skip the Tour altitude.
For Vanderpool, I don't really care about the Giro.
True.
I'd rather see him do first 10 days of the Tour de France, help Philipsen in sprints again. Plus, in addition, there's 2 stages that I recall in the first 10 that I can see him compete for himself in as well. And then just try and build up towards the actual mountain bike road race combination. I don't know how easy that's going to be because I actually haven't seen the actual schedule of the Olympics. But he has to do both, right?
Well, he has to do mountain bike and road race. And he's got world championships in Zurich, but that one's a little bit on the edge for him. That's not the same good course as this year. But you're right, it's how do they combine both having to do the mountain bike and the road race at the Olympics after the Tour de France? Combining it with the classic seasons, no problem. I expect to see him do exactly the same classic season as this year, where he starts the year quite late. He skips opening weekend. We don't see him in February. He does a few Italian races to tune up, and then bang, San Remo, E3, Tour of Flanders, Roubaix. That's worked very, very well for him in the past 2 years, and then that's the big question mark. Okay, you're adding Amstel then.
I'm saying you don't do the Giro, but you add Amstel.
Okay, I think that's probably correct. I think that's probably correct if you're not going to do the Giro, and I don't know exactly what's the best option. I think for the Olympics, I swear the best option would be to do the Giro for 2 weeks and then go to altitude. But I don't think they can not send him to the Tour.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because, I mean, you could say, well, Philipsen just won 4 stages. Van der Poel didn't win any stages at the Tour this year. We don't need him to go to the Tour. He should just do his Olympics prep. But, I think that's too risky.
Even for the lead out, I feel like he's important. Like, he does add to the Alpecin lead out at the Tour de France. It increases the chance of Philipsen winning stage. And I think there's 5 sprint stages in the first 10 days. So I think that's a good combination to do that. First 10 days Tour de France, then Olympics. I don't know when it comes to training how easy that will be to combine with altitude camps, but they can try and make it work. Come on.
Yeah, I agree that it should be compatible, and there will be a lot of guys doing the Olympics who will come out of the Tour de France, like I expect Pedersen to. And also, as you said, Benji, it's not just about him. He is essential, that X factor for Philipsen's lead out. And if he's not there, I'm not sure. I'm not. I am sure they will not have the same success with the lead out, with Ricard as last man, Sinkeldam second last man, and someone else third last man. I think Van der Poel was incredibly important. But looking at the Tour for Van der Poel, Benji, this year there was the opening 2 stages. There was the Heiskebel, where he just pulled up stumps from a group of 100 at the start. Didn't contest that one. There was the Côte de Piquet, where he was dropped, but I think he really was pretty far back in that one. But let's just say he wasn't in his best shape. The Tour next year, he does do your 10-day recommendation. There's the opening classics weekend, and if I actually think this opening stage is doable because the last climb is not as steep and is very regular compared to the Heiskebel. The second stage is San Luca, I think, is tough. It's really close to the finish. And then there's also, looking through, the gravel stage.
Yeah, 8 and 9 are the ones where I feel like something's possible. 8 is also a hilly parkour where I feel like...
Breakaway.
Actually, breakaway or Is it
uphill?
shallow gradient enough to be Philipsen survivable? Too difficult to
control?
I
think Philipsen can definitely survive and win this, but it's whether he can. If they get help from Trek, for example, then maybe they can make it happen. But yeah, that one could go either way. But of course, stage 9 is perfect for him, the gravel stage, and yeah, even I don't know. There's some other, but that's the first 10 days. Is he going to want to peak for some lead outs and a couple of stage win opportunities versus the Olympics? I'm not sure. But it's definitely building his schedule next year will be difficult. And then there's the kind of, he does the Olympics peak, then there's nothing, and then there's World Champs after the Vuelta. So how does he manage that? Does he, if he's only done 10 days of the Tour, do a bit of the Vuelta? Do they rinse and repeat Groves and Philipsen schedule?
I kind of feel like it, because Philipsen to the Tour seems like an obvious one to me. And in addition to that, maybe Philipsen would want to do an extra Grand Tour, but I also feel like when I'm Philipsen and I go to the Tour de France and I win 4th stage in the green jersey, I also feel like I deserve to be with my family for 2 Grand Tours in the year. So I would only want to do the Tour de France the next year. That's my personal view.
He could. I would have probably done the Vuelta and skipped Turkey personally, but
true. But that being said, I feel like Mathieu van der Poel doing the Vuelta as a build-up towards the Worlds in the same way that he did with the Tour de France in 2023 is not impossible. That being said, I don't know how realistic that Zurich parkour is for him.
Yeah, I think that's the one where he's like, I might have to have not the best preparation because I'm not going to be the favorite against Pogačar anyway on that sort of parkour, whereas the Paris parkour should be really, really good for him. Maybe he'll do Europeans in good shape after it. I don't know when that race is. Okay, but do you think... Okay, so the Classics team, same again, Krij Andersen, Van der Poel, Philipsen for the flatter ones. Where I was surprised, as you were, Benji, that Hermans didn't do the Tour of Flanders this year. He did Basque Country in between Doisdour and the Ardennes. I think that was a pretty strange way they approached that. So maybe he'll do a different prep in the Classics or
it's
schedule.
Mauro Schmidt, but worse in 2023. He did the same thing, right? Basque Country plus Ardennes?
Did he?
I think so. I feel like they did the same thing at Quickstep for Mauro Schmidt, and with both, I have the feeling that they should have just combined the Classics and the Ardennes. And for 2024, I feel like the same, because like, what team does Alpecin send to the Classics? And that is Van der Poel, obviously, to the big Classics. Krij Andersen in support. Philipsen for, I'd say, Roubaix, Brugge de Panne, Scheldeprijs, Kuurne Groves Road in 2023. Which I kind of would like to see Philipsen as well.
He did both opening weekend races.
Because they were terrible, right? I think Philipsen had a puncture in Omloop, though, on the Muur. So that matters. He should do Omloop and Kuurne again, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd like to see Groves do them too, to be honest, because just they're good options and maybe Groves can improve as well. I mean, he came 14th in Kuurne and that was... Jumbo really opened that race with 85 Ks to go. I'd like to see him do that. But probably Groves has to do TDU by law, and unless he gets out of it, then he has to do the Giro. He did 11 stages. So I really think Groves should do the same as this year. Opening weekend, TDU, abandon the Giro after 2 weeks, maybe skip Suisse, and then prepare for the Vuelta. And Philipsen, I think, will be much the same. And I think that's probably what their sponsors want. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel, this team. Like the Tour we already mentioned briefly, but it's going to be a lead out. We think Van der Poel should go as well. It's going to be around Philipsen, Ricard Sinkeldam, Krij Andersen, and maybe one of the young guys like Kielich or Stan van Tricht, or I don't know if Dillier drops off a little bit. He can't climb so well. So I think we're going to see some of those young guys slotting into definitely definitely the Giro Vuelta lead-outs, and maybe even the Tour.
Can I say that I disagree with your view on the team that you mentioned about 10 minutes ago, where you see the Philipsen side maybe deteriorating in 2024 when it comes to striking right every time, versus Van der Poel being there in the top fives? Yes, but if we look at the history of classics riders, and I mentioned this in the award show, for example, that the season of Van der Poel was really on the level of like Born in 2005, Cancellara 2010, those kind of years, and those riders had a hard time replicating that the following year. And I feel like Van der Poel will have a very hard time replicating the 2023 season, 2024, just based on the history of cycling, that it's hard to replicate seasons like that. Because a lot has to go your way, not just when it comes to being at the level, but luck in races needs to be going your way. I don't know if Pogacar is going to do RVV, which if he doesn't, that would make it easier to get an extra monument outside of MSR and Roubaix. But I don't expect Van der Poel to have a better season in 2024. I think it's more likely that he has a slightly worse season in 2024 because 2023 was bloody on point. And I feel like I'm more trusted. Focus. Yeah. And I feel like I'm more trusted when it comes to Philipsen, where the team is really built for it and really has it on when it comes to lead outs. And I feel like other teams are just too far away in 2023 to make that step for me.